Okay, welcome to class number two. And today I've put down a few things we are going to be discussing or going through. Yeah, so from last class we set up our environment, we got Visual Studio Code, installed it, and like set up some stuff. So today these are the few things we are going to be doing, explaining what JavaScript is, the difference between a framework and language, setting up live server, and we'll dive into the first thing, variables and data types in JavaScript. Okay, so first of all, let's see what JavaScript is. Okay, JavaScript is a programming language, yeah, and it can be used. Okay, it was actually built for the web. It was built as a web language for all the functionality. Like, it's the one that runs all the functionality on a website. Yeah, but as time has gone on, since it's very familiar within developers or with developers, it has outsourced now. It's now used for mobile apps. It's used for desktop apps and other stuff like that. So the importance of JavaScript here is that when you learn it, you can actually use it for anything. You get whether you are using it for the web, whether you're using it for mobile, whether you're using it for a desktop app. That is what makes JavaScript like very important. And I think it's like the top programming language now, the top known programming language now. Yeah. So we'll just again I think that does it for what JavaScript is. I don't like doing dealing too much with like um explanations and stuff. Let's just dive right into what we are going to be doing. Yeah. Okay, so next I'm going to explain the difference between a framework and a language. Okay. A framework is a set of libraries put together to is a set of libraries, yeah, put together to make like development process easier. Yeah, let's Google what that is like for like simpler terms and stuff. Yeah. Abstraction provides generic functionality, blah blah blah. It's still big words. Okay, let me just put it like this: a combination of libraries that makes any process easier. Yeah, like you understand as we go on. You understand as we go on. Okay, so what is next? What is next? Setting up live server. Let's just dive into like functionality and actually coding. Okay, so instead of doing this, instead of working with what I've already created, let's just start up a new project. So if you remember what I did yesterday, open your command line. See, so I'm in my roots like developer folder. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a directory tutorial tutorial directory. Okay, so we can now go into that. Then if you follow what I taught yesterday, you understand what I just did. I just opened this within that. Okay, so if you look at this button here, you can click on this button to create a new file. You're going to be creating two files for now. Okay, three files rather. You're going to be creating index.html. You're going to be creating index.js, and you can create styles.css. Okay, to understand what this is, each web page you see is made up of three individual components. Yeah. So there's HTML and CSS. These are used for styling. These are used for like what you see, the designs and everything, like the styling for the site. Then the JavaScript is for the functionality. What happens when you click on a button, or what happens when you are scrolling or stuff like that. All the functionality, like when you click a button that adds something, all of that is done in JavaScript. But HTML is for styling, and CSS is for like further styling. It's like defining the styles very, very, or like, whoa, how do I explain this now? It's an extension of HTML. You understand as we move on. Yeah. Okay, so Since the major thing we are going to be working on is, but the major focus of this class is actually JavaScript, because like it is actually the language, or it's actually the part of this that has the most things to learn about. HTML and CSS, you just learn about that as we are moving on with JavaScript classes. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to explain something to you. Remember how I told you to toggle the terminal here, control and that button beside one, forgotten the name. So you can do this, then you see we are in tutorial directory, then just press start, full stop, and it's open Explorer here. Yeah, so you can see the three files we just created: HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Then double tap on this index of HTML. Okay, so as you can see, it is a white screen. There's nothing on this screen. It's just a white screen that opened up in your browser. Yeah. So what we'll do here is that we'll come back to this file, and in the HTML file will start doing this. Okay. What do you call it? Visual Studio Code has suggestions. So like when you want to create any HTML element, it will show you suggestions. So this doc type is the first you see. Just click that and close it. Okay. So let me explain this. Every HTML file has to work with tags. Yeah. This HTML you can see is a tag here. And every element you create is created with this thing they call tags. Yeah. So now that we've created these tags, we are going to learn how to link the JavaScript to the HTML and to the CSS. Like link all three of them together. That is what we are going to be doing. Okay, the basic structure of the HTML document is, okay, it starts with the HTML tags that envelopes every other thing. Then within this HTML tag, now there are two important sections. There's the head section, yeah, and there's the body section. Yeah. Okay. So this head section does not, okay, what is in this head section? It's only the title that displays. Everything else is just is an area where you can use to link other documents to the whole HTML file. The body section is what displays, like what's going to display in this web page is in this body section here. You get. So let me just show you an example of some of like displaying something. If you put a h1 tag, or explain. We'll do a class on like all these tags and everything for HTML as we go on. But h1 is just, it means header one. It's like a large type of header. So if I just say my first HTML project, you do that and you reload here, you see everything in this body displays, but in the head is just for linking files, and that is what we are trying to do now. So to link this JavaScript and CSS, okay, let's start with the JavaScript. To link the JavaScript, we are going to add a script tag. I told you everything in HTML is made up of tags. So the script tag is for linking a JavaScript file, like JavaScript script, to a HTML file. So all you just do, then you now put src, and you can see index.js. Just do that. Okay, and to link the styles of CSS, use a link tag, put a relation to style sheet, then you put href styles.css. See that for, okay, note for CSS files is a link and it is href, like the part to the file is href. And for the JavaScript is a script and the part to the file is the src, means source. Yeah. So we can see we've linked both files like that. When you've done this, you have to test to see whether both files have been linked. You can see that we have a h1, the header here, h1 header with my first HTML project. Let's test to see whether CSS is actually linked. We'll come to the style sheet. Then to give a style to an element, like a h1 element, you just write h1. Then you open these curly bracelets like this, brackets rather. Then you can just give it a color. You can give it the color of green. Yeah. Then Control S to save. And if you go back to here and reload, see it has changed to color green. That means that our style sheet is successfully linked. Okay, now to test whether our JavaScript has been linked, we can just simply log something to console. So just type console.log. Then you can just put any string. You can see two. When I explain data types, you understand what this is, but just do what I did and type hello world. Then Control S to save. Then come back here and reload. Okay, so JavaScript does not show in the display. So what you have to do is toggle developer settings. I am in Chrome, or I'm in Chrome, yeah. I think it works in Mozilla too, but if you're not using Chrome, yeah, it should still work. You can actually come down here and press inspect. Okay, then come to console here. Yeah, and you can see hello world is being displayed. So this what we can see now is the console, is the development console. Every JavaScript thing like displays, anything you log to your console displays here on this console here. So let me just redo that. Right click, come to inspect, then come to console. Another shortcut for that is Shift Control J. Shift Control J. You should see that on the screen now. Shift Control J is another shortcut to toggle this console in an easier way. Okay, so we can see hello world. We can see that we use console.log hello world here. So this just means that our three files have been linked. Okay, so we are starting with JavaScript, meaning that we are not going to like deal with what is in this display for now. We'll just work with data types and variables and stuff like that, all in the JavaScript. And to see everything we are doing, we are going to be using this console to debug. Debugging means testing, looking through your code for bugs. Bugs are errors in your code. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what is a variable? Variables are names you give to store data. That is the simplified definition I can think of. Okay. Meaning that if you want to store, my name is Oyali. I want to store my name in JavaScript. What I do, I create a variable named name and I make my name string. Sorry, Oyali, why am I saying string? Okay, so you see Oyali is my name and it is stored in this variable called name. You get, so that is what a variable is. It's just a name for storing data. Is data packets. Yeah, it's data packets for storing data. So like now you see I've stored Oyali this string to name. So if I come here and I console.log, I log my name to the console. See, I press Ctrl S to save, then go back here to index.html and just reload. You can see it's showing my name Oyali here in the console, meaning that Oyali is stored to this variable. Okay, so that is what variables are. When you define a variable, you define it using var tag. Before you cannot just put name is equals to Oyali. No, you have to put var name is equals to Oyali. And when you do that, you see you log it and now it's logging my name as Oyali, but you can always change what is in that variable. When you've done it, you can change like name to another name, then console.log name, and now see it shows Oyali, then it shows another name. When the JavaScript file runs, it runs from line 1 downwards, meaning to run this, it's to run next line, to run, it's like run in the order of the lines from 1 down. You have to understand that to see how everything works. And to initially create a variable, you have to use the var use the var tab if you plan on changing the variable. If you don't plan on changing the variable, you use const. So const means constant. Constant name is equals to Oyale. And you see now I try to change the name. Let's see what will happen. Yeah, it's an error. Assignment constant variable. So if you want to be able to change like what is stored under the variable, you use var. If you don't want to change what is stored under the variable, you use const. And I'm sure you're wondering, why would I ever use const when like I always want to be free enough to be able to change like the variable now, but don't worry, in like more complex use scenarios, you actually see that saving constants helps you prevent errors and stuff like that. Okay, so that is what a variable is. That is what like a variable is. And we can now go into data types. There are how many data types? Let's just start listing. We have strings. This is string, but you probably shouldn't do this. You probably okay. Data type 1 is a string. Data type 2 is a number. So like 1 blah 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 blah. This is a number. Data type 3 is a boolean. So boolean, this is how boolean is spelled. Boolean, it just simply means true or false. So you see data type 3 could be true or it could be false. Yeah. Then the data type 4 is undefined. Undefined means like you create this variable, but this variable has no value under it. It is undefined. It has not been given any value. So it means it is undefined. You can create an undefined variable like this, or you can just not assign it to anything and it is still undefined. Okay, so these are the four primitive data types: strings, numbers, false, and booleans, or this. Okay, for strings can be created like with double quotes or with single quotes. So I could also like just do this and it is still a string. You see, this is single quotes before it was a double quote. Numbers could be like whole numbers or decimal. So like this is still a number. And booleans could be true or false, and this undefined data type. So these are the four primitive data types. Okay, so we can go into the more complex data types. These are the base data types, like they are the lowest, just the core four data types. Then they are now more complex data types called objects and arrays. Okay, so an object looks like this, is in curly braces. What are objects used for? They are used for storing key value pairs, meaning you want to store his name, like let's say you want to store my name as Oyali, you want to store my age as 30, you want to store my gender as male, or okay, rather, like let's use a boolean. So am I a male? True, like that. So this my first object here is an object, it's a data type. You can see it's a data type of map or objects. No, it's called an object. So everything here is an object. If you console.log my first object, you can see, let's refresh, you can see this is an object. And lastly, the last data type we have is an array. So let's just name it my first array. Arrays are defined by using this, what is this called? This kind of brackets rather. So this is an array. An array is a list of anything. Just an easy way of saying a list. So I can say okay, the list of people in my class, person 1, person 2, like that. If you just want to create a list, you use an array, person 3, person 4, like that. But like all these objects and arrays the data types are not limited. You could make these like tree. You see, this is a number, this is string. It's not limited to any certain data types. You can create an array with any data type, yeah. And also objects, key value pairs, you can create them with any data type. But for objects, you have to give it a key, and you have to give it a key before you log the data type beneath it. Okay, so I just gave a brief overview of these two data types, but let us, before we jump into this, like explaining how to access the values, the individual values, and like just playing around with this. Since these are more complex, we'll just clean them for now, and we will deal with these four major data types. Okay, so we will start with like strings, adding strings. Let's just start with addition. Yeah, addition, subtraction, like mathematical functions on all these. Let's start with strings. Yeah, for strings, what if I am coding now and I want to add two strings? I got like in an input box, I got somebody's first name. In another input box, I got somebody's last name, and I want to add them together. So to add, let's create a new data type called the person's full name. Yeah. So this full name is meant to have the both of the person's name, like the person's first name and the person's last name. So let's say my first name is Oyali and my last name is Peter. So these are two names. And now I want both of them to be under my full name. What do? I just come to full name and I say full name is equals to first name plus last name. You get? Yeah. And let's just log that to the console. Note that whenever you log anything to the console, you press Ctrl S to save. When you save it, you can now come here and reload. I'm using Ctrl R to reload. Okay, yeah. You can see full name Oyali Peter, first name Oyali, second name Peter. When you add that, full name Oyali Peter. This is what happens when you add strings. Yeah, you add strings like this. You cannot subtract strings, so don't try to do this. Yeah, I don't think anybody should even try that. You can just add them. But you can see how there's no space between the names. If I put a space bar here, right, I put space here, and I reload, I'll see some spaced out, so it looks better. Yeah. Okay. So we've done addition of strings. Addition of strings is actually called string concatenation. Let me just spell that. Yeah, so like when you add two strings together, or you put a value inside a string, or just like put two data types, something and a string together, is actually called string concatenation. Yeah, that's what I was trying to spell here. Okay. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is we are going to look at another method of string concatenation, or adding two strings, or adding something else to a string. Okay, let me just show you an example. Let's say I have three phones with me. Oyali has dash number of phones. Okay, so let's just change this to part 1 and part 2. I want to join two parts. One of them is, you see, this is string Oyali has, then the part 2 is like a number, then part 3 is three phones. Let me see, I have three phones, Abby. Okay. Now I want to add these three parts to create a sentence. We can simply just say part 1 plus part 2 plus part 3. See, and now it's going to add Oyali has three phones. And see, so this just shows that you can add different data types together. You can add strings and numbers. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So when you log that sentence to your console, don't forget to save. When it is unsaved, you can see here unsaved. Just press Ctrl S to save the file. Then you come here and just Ctrl R to reload. Oyali has three phones. Okay, so this is string concatenation between different data types. You get? Okay. So now that we've done that, we can now go to like a different method of string concatenation. Yeah, I forgot to explain what these are. These are comments. These are comments. You can comment out a line of code so that it does not run it, meaning that when this JavaScript file is being run, it will do this, do this, do this. But when it reaches these comments, you to create comments, you put two. It has to be two. You see, now it's not showing as a comment. You have to put two of these forward slashes, and that line is commented out. So any like if I don't want this line to run now, I can just put two, and you see it's commented out. It's not going to run. Yeah, it's commenting out. There are shortcuts for that, but like I'll explain that later. Okay, so another way of string concatenation is by just using curly braces. It's actually easier. This is actually what I do instead of like creating the three parts. I can just get like, let's say I went through a process to get the number of phones, and there are three. Okay, yeah, I know I changed. Okay, so the sentence would be okay on in a normal string we use like double quotes or we can use single quotes, but for this sort of string concatenation we use this thing. It is that button before beside one, left beside one. Yeah, so you can see Oyali has, then you do this, you see a dollar sign, then curly braces, then you can now just put number of phones there and put phones. See, this was way faster than like putting three strings together. This just, you can put a variable anywhere in between a string and just save that. Don't forget to save. Oh, like always save. Then when you save, you can now jump to this and reload. Yeah, yeah, okay. So we can see it has shown Oyali has three phones. This variable was put into this. Okay, so the difference between these four data types, I explained these four data types: strings, numbers, booleans, and undefined. These are the four primitive data types, and I explained like other data types like objects, or let's just give it data type 5, and it's an object. Yeah, you can have a key value pair name. See, this is another data type, but it is made up of like children of other data types. So it is not primitive. It is like a more complex structure and like arrays like that can be made up of like a string or a number like that, or even a boolean. Okay. Okay, so we've gone through that. We've seen the four primitive data types, we've seen objects, we've seen arrays. Now let's just look at a few other things before we end this class on like data types and variables. Let's look at something from strings before like jump to one last thing. Okay, let's just say you have a string, my string, yeah, and in your string you are saying David said, then you want to use quotes, you want to use quotation marks, like you want to use quotation marks within this your string. Yeah, the way it works is that when you create one quotation mark, the next quotation mark closes that quotation mark. So what if you want to use double quotes in a string that already has double quotes? You get? I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Like you want to say, David said, "Can I help you?" You're trying to use quotes within quotes, but this code is reading these quotes as like it's reading the string that it starts from here and it ends here, but you don't want it to be that way. This is where the string is meant to end. You just want to use quotes in between quotes. So there is something called escaping characters. To do that, but yeah, to do that, to escape these double quotes here, you can use the forward slash, yeah. Then to escape the second one, use the forward slash too. And now you can see that all those errors have gone away. That it will say David said, "Can I help you?" Let's just log that so that you see what I'm talking about. Yeah, so now you can see the double quotes, but you see that these double quotes don't show up. Like these first ones, they don't show up because like they're what creates the string, but you want to show double quotes within the string. Yeah. So that is just one thing you should note. Just note that. Okay, so the last thing we are going to be doing for today are mathematical operators. Yeah, we are just trying to run through everything really fast so that like it's sort of a crash course because we are doing this all in 3 to 4 weeks tops. Yeah. Okay, so mathematical operators are like addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. Yeah, we all know that, but how do we do that in this? Okay, so let's just get ourselves some random numbers. Number one, let's just say 30. Number two, 3. Okay, let's just deal with two numbers. Okay, so when we want to create a number 3 that is like an addition between number one and number two, we can simply just say number three is equals to number one plus number two. Yeah, this is easy. Okay, so with those addition, I think everybody would have known about addition. It's very basic. Just add the two numbers. So now, what if you want to subtract like number two from number one? You can also just simply subtract. Then to multiply, yeah, to multiply you use the hash star, rather use the star button. Like there's no multiply button on your keypad, so use the star. And to divide, use this number one divided by number two. Yeah, so if we just run that, you can see, don't forget to reload. You can see 10, 30 divided by 3 is 10. Okay, so we've learned addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. But there is one last operator that we use. It's called remainder. Okay, let's say this is 30 and you divide 30 by 5. No, it's 30. Divide 30 by 7. Yeah. 30 divided by 7 is going to give you like 4 points, 4.3, 4.2 something, like 4.233 or something like that. But if we run this now, let's don't forget to save and come and reload. Yeah, you can see what it gives you, 4.28 like this. Okay, let's say you are in a situation where you just want it to get a whole number. Yeah, so what we do in that situation, or rather it's not the whole number, to get a remainder, what we do in that situation is that we use the percentage sign, number one divided by number two, and let's just see what it shows. 2. Okay, so 30 divided by 7 is 28 remainder 2. So use the percentage sign to get the remainder from like the division between two numbers when they don't give up, when the number is not divisible by like the other number. Yeah, this is math stuff, but let's just put that in our heads as we go on. Okay, but if like 30 is divisible by 5 now, so it's going to 30 divided by 5 is 6, but it has no remainder. So in such a situation, when you reload, you see it gives 0 because it has no remainder. Okay, so I think that is all. We've done variables, we've done data types, we've done okay, yeah, done data types, strings, numbers, booleans, undefined. Then we did like more complex data types objects and arrays, and now we've done mathematical operators. So I think we've covered enough for one class so that you don't like overload your head. Okay, so I think you guys should explore, try and see what happens when you try and see what happens when you like add booleans and numbers, or like you add booleans and numbers, or booleans and strings. Just experiment and see what happens in all those situations so that you get used to it. Yeah. So try booleans and numbers, try booleans and strings. Just try everything and see the errors you get, and like share them with me and like see what you think. It's better when you make mistakes, and it's like a faster way of understanding stuff. Yeah. Okay, so the last thing we are going to be doing today is live server. I told you about live server from like the first class and how we are going to use it. The reason we are using live server is that, yeah, when we make a change here, like if I make a change to the, like I want the console to log something, this is a change. Yeah, I want the console to log that. But when you come here, nothing changes. You have to reload before you see that. So what live server does actually is that it will help this change to show immediately you make any changes to this document. So immediately I save, here the change will show. It will just help us like to prevent coming here to reload every single time and everything. Okay, so to use the extension, you come to the extensions part and just search for live server. Oh, my network seems to be shitty. Okay, yeah, live server. See, I already have it installed. So you just see a button here, install. Just click that. You should have like an internet connection. It will install. Then all you have to do is that when you are opening your HTML file, you right click and you just press open with live server. Okay, so this is the index.html opened with live server, and any change we make, when we save it here, you see immediately changes. There's no need for us to start reloading this whole tab. So it's a very basic extension, but I just wanted you guys to understand how extensions work and like how you can use them in your projects. And an example, this is an example of an extension. As we move on, we'll learn more about them and stuff like that. So I hope you guys got something from this class. I know I was not so organized and I just like ran through everything, but just take a moment back, try to define variables, use constants, and like try to change it. Just clear out anything like you feel I didn't explain. Just move on, because when we move from this, we are just going to be using this in like everything we are doing, and these are like the building blocks of everything, and I try to make it all work out very fast. Okay, so I believe we are done for today. We're done for today. I hope you enjoyed the class. I will see you tomorrow. Yeah.